Hello everyone, AlphaSoul here, and welcome to another video. So today we're actually going to talk a little bit about the live stream that occurred on June 26th, 2020. It was a pretty standard live stream, but it had a couple interesting tidbits that I do want to kind of share my thoughts on. Now, in the background, you're going to see some footage from the latest live stream. It has some new footage. There was no play testing in between, the last play test that I had for, Ashes of Creation, but it is what it is. It's there, and the team appears to be making some good progress as far as, reaching milestones and getting ready to get into the Alpha 1 stage, right? All right, so in general, the live stream, it started off a little late. I think it was like 10 minutes late, which kind of ate into the time that I had, to kind of see the live stream. So I ended up having to bail a little bit early. But I went to the, I think it was ashespost.com. I'll put a link to their page. Excellent page. They provide transcriptions of the live streams. If you want more in-depth kind of answers that they had there, feel free, check it out. Again, I'm going to have a link down below. Now, overall, a couple of interesting things to note. One, expect a new creative director's letter pretty soon. It's going to be at the end of the month, so probably sometime mid next week or early mid next week. Let's see. The studio move that they're having, if you didn't know, Intrepid Studios, the studio that's making Ashes of Creation, is actually moving from one location to another. They ran out of space where they were, and now they're moving into a bigger location. We kind of saw a preview of it before. It looked like a great space. Obviously, the whole COVID thing has kind of thrown things into a loop. They expect to be in the studios sometime in late August, but obviously all of that depends on, what the rules and regulations are for whatever's going on with the latest COVID thing. It differs by state. Intrepid Studios is in California, so they'll probably have to abide by California's rules and do whatever it takes to make sense for them. The good thing that they mentioned was that the productivity has actually increased now that they've been working from home. So that is a very positive thing to note. One of the more interesting things that I thought that Steven shared with them as well too was the I guess you could say the challenge, if you will, in hiring people during this time. It's a very competitive industry out there for some fields specifically, and they, despite that, they're kind of going through with things and continuing on to hire and filling out their staff. So that was good. They're still on target based on their development for Alpha 1 in the fall. So not hearing as much news, I guess, as we're used to is actually a good thing. It means that they're trudging along with development. That's the way that I look at it. Within the live stream, we got to see some new character models. Those were pretty cool looking. The really intense stare from the one of the new character models was pretty interesting. The hair didn't really do it for me. I'll be interested to see when they've got hair like mine, if you will, or the Division 2 actually had like my preferred hairstyle, but I'll end. Oh no, it was the Division 1 that actually had it, but we'll see how it actually goes out. So the big portion in this particular live stream was housing, really. And housing was reflected in a couple of main ways, but we got to see some videos of the housing. Hopefully you'll see some in the back over here as well too. And there were a couple key things that we got to take away from it. It was nice to see kind of a preview of the housing, and I thought in general it was pretty standard. There's nothing really that is jumping out at me that's brand new or anything like that. For example, housing will be where you store things. You can furnish the house in any way you want. It'll be kind of like your own little slice, if you will. This will be, these are not freeholds, by the way. This is housing specifically, and housing that is like within nodes that you can purchase from there. So you'll be able to sell your house as well too. You won't be able to sell freeholds for that matter, but you will. You'll be able to gather things at your house. You'll be able to like plant a garden or whatever it is that you're gathering at your home. You'll be able to, it supposedly will be destructible, and it'll come in a couple of different sizes basically. And when I say destructible, it'll be dependent on kind of what happens within the node that you're at basically. So it'll be interesting for that. So other than that, there were a couple of key things. Obviously, they talked about a lot more things, but I want to highlight the things that I found interesting. One, as far as combat goes, there's not really going to be active shield blocking, and that moves it a little bit away from action combat from what I'm seeing. I had a recent video talking about action combat versus, or not necessarily versus tap target, because I wasn't really advocating for anything. I think if they come up with a brand new combat system, that'll be fine. We'll see what happens with that. I think if I had to compare it against any other MMO that is currently on the scene, I would compare it to Elder Scrolls Online as to what I was kind of expecting to go through, but it seems like with no active blocking. And the second note is that the dodge roll will actually be implemented into an active skill as opposed to how it is now where you can just dodge roll everywhere. Yeah, so that kind of leans it more into out of the direction of the ESO realm, if you will. So that's interesting. I'm not quite sure where they're going, so I have to remain mum at least on this point and kind of see where they're going with it. So yeah. The other interesting note that I saw was the armor intent that they have. One question that keeps coming up repeatedly from people is what's going to happen with cosmetics that you have, right? Because if you have, like, just say a cosmetic piece of armor, the worry is that as a cloth wearer, you can potentially appear as a plate wearer and you can change how somebody approaches you in combat, which makes sense. And I think the interpretation or the what's coming from Intrepid now is that the intent is always to give you some method to know specifically what armor class somebody is. So the idea, I think Steven mentioned, is if you hover your mouse over someone, for example, it'll give you what armor class they are, which will be interesting because I'm curious to see how they're going to implement it, because you can mix and match armor pieces. So what would it tell you if you've got 2 light, 3 heavy, or would it just take the majority of what you are? We'll see what happens. I'm kind of throwing out some things in my head because you can technically game that system if you said, okay, I'm going to put on a heavy belt, gloves, and boots, but I'm going to have greaves, cloth chest, and if you hovered over there based on like a number, then you would technically be light, but there's a couple different ways that you could do it. So yeah, that was interesting. So overall, I thought the stream, it was nice to see the developers and have them go over things, but it was a little bit light on content that was actually there. It was nice to see the housing. It was nice to see some of the new character models, and it was nice to see some of those. So but again, I'm looking at it like, hey, they're still working on this. It's good that we're not hearing anything. It means they're busy at work, and that is a good thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my thoughts on the live stream. We'll see what the creative director's letter entails. They've dropped some bombshells before in them, so I'm curious to see if there's any new, interesting, exciting news that they plan on dropping in it. Steven's been known to do it before, so we'll see. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you guys. Take care of yourselves, and you guys have a great day. Alpha Soul out.